Hi there, I'm Tilo Young. The H is silent. I'd like to welcome you to my first live video, which is the first in a series I'm going to be doing called Your Shatafa and You. Thank you. What? That was funny. Okay, a little bit of background before I take questions, and this is just going to be open Q&A. For those who don't know me, I'm a convert to the Coptic Church. American convert, and my wife and I both came here through historical studies and an introduction to the early church. I know quite a few of you from quite a few different cities where we've spoken, and generally, for those who know me, I don't like lectures. Whenever I'm asked to speak, I always ask if we can just do open Q&A. I don't like sitting and listening to lectures, and I don't think most other people do either. By the way, you can go ahead and write questions that I'll be answering. It looks like there's a delay of about a minute or so. So go ahead and write questions as I'm talking. I find that 30, 45 minutes max, and people are kind of glazing over when they hear lectures. But virtually every time I've done an open Q&A at a parish, and said, let's talk about what interests you and what you care about. And it's usually with college kids, the average length is 3 to 4 hours before they're done. So I totally reject this idea that people are not interested and engaged with our faith. That's not my experience. I find that when I open it up to the things that matter to them, and I'm not giving them fluff and feel good teachings, I'm talking usually in-depth theology, the young people are very much engaged and remain engaged for hours. I had one in Cairo that went on for 6 solid hours of Q&A. So that being the case, my preference is always to do the Q&A format. Okay, do you have any questions? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to just answer questions. Now, a little bit about my background. I know that Egyptian people love somebody with a lot of letters after their name, and I have none. So this would probably be a good time for a lot of you to just turn off the video and go look at memes, which may be more fun. My formal education ended about the 8th grade. And the things that I have learned since then have been the things that I've wanted to know. And that's why I've learned them. I never went through any formal education, and I never decided I want to, be able to teach something. This has never occurred to me. The only things that have really mattered to me were the questions I had in my mind, because I always felt that salvation was what this was all about. And I came to the realization that we're on this planet a very short time, and everything we see will be dust. This motorcycle, this shop, these clothes, this body will all be dust very soon. And whatever happens after this is going to be forever. And so it seemed important to me to really invest myself in that which will be forever, and not in that which is passing very quickly. So there are a lot of questions you're going to ask me that I don't know about, because I haven't really sought those answers, because they just never really came up on my radar. I just kind of pursue down the roads of the things I need to know and want to know in order for me to be able to somehow stand at the final judgment before God. And so I'm more than happy to answer anything I can, but I'm certainly not a credentialed teacher or theologian. But I do tend to be able to have some very meaningful conversations with people who are. So with that in mind, let me go. I'm going to look here at some questions that have been sent in. Wow, we got a lot. Mike says, I hear Tilo whispering. Okay, that was at the beginning. Okay. UC says, hey, UC. UC prays at the same parish where I do. She's pretty awesome. Introduce who's next to you. That would be my wife, Anastasia, who doesn't want to be on this video at all. And she doesn't even use my Shatafa anyway. So, Mike, oh my gosh, behave, bro. Chris Basilio says that beard, though. If anybody wants to talk about beard care products, I'd be really happy to talk to you about that. Let me see. It's me, Daniel. Hi, Daniel. The deacons, okay, this is great. While I keep hearing calls, and I'm just going to mention this because I'm seeing deacons from my home parish. I hear people keep saying, oh, but we have all the youth who aren't interested in God and in seeking truth, and we need to tailor the church to them. And I don't agree with that. The young deacons at my parish and that pray with me on Fridays, these people are so dedicated and devoted to God. They spend their Fridays in their summer off of school going to liturgy. And my take is, why not ask them what made them that way? Aren't they the ones we should be listening to? If my car doesn't run right, do I go to a guy whose car is sitting on the lawn on blocks and have him tell me, how do I make it run right? Or do I go to somebody who has fixed his car and it runs perfectly? How do I fix my car? So I really think that we're asking the wrong people at times and tailoring things the wrong way at times. When will you be coming to the DC area? Possibly soon. I don't know. Don't have any immediate plans. This is really good. Do you feel excluded in the Coptic Church? What can we do to make it more welcoming? This is a great question. So to give you a little background, I walked into a Coptic church never having met or known a Copt that I knew about. And I came in through historical studies. And I came seeking God. I didn't come seeking a social club. I didn't come seeking friends. As a matter of fact, I'm very much antisocial. I don't like crowds, not a big fan of people in my past. In high school, I never even went to a football game, a pep rally, a party, nothing. So when I walked in, it was really a pursuit of God. And what I found as I continued studying and attending was a very rich spiritual tradition that very much mirrored the early church. And while I found objectively orthodoxy is the religion that was passed down from the apostles, at the same time, there were many flavors that I could choose from. Some with all American parishes and some, Russian, Greek, whatever. But I had found that the Copts really had this early Christian spirit that I didn't see anywhere. That it was so unique to me. And for quite some time, I had people ask me, what is it that's different about that Coptic ethos? And I finally figured it out. And it was this. That's the difference that I saw so profoundly. And for those of you not familiar with the Coptic faith, whenever we say the word thanks or thanksgiving, we kiss both sides of the hand. And when we kiss both sides of the hand, what we're saying is we thank you for the good and the bad, for what we receive and what we don't receive. This life of humility before God, this desert ethos that is carried forward, that basically tells us all things are to be accepted as coming from God to train us and to save us and to develop us in our faith and our perseverance. The blessings are his gifts and the struggles are his gifts to help us to grow spiritually. And there was such a submission before God that I saw in the Copts, and in particular, the Coptic elders, the ones that I saw at midweek liturgy. They so profoundly affected me with their humility and their acceptance, and their life truly walked before God. I would hear them say things like, all right, well, we'll see you Friday. And they'll say, if God's will, God willing, inshallah. And I always thought that was just kind of like a thing they said, but they actually meant it. They literally meant it, that if it's God's will and if it's not, okay, I will go with whatever God's will is. And so this really impacted me. And so at first, no, I was very much the outsider. And this thing about welcoming people into the church, I think, is huge. I see people trying to build entire parishes to try and browbeat their elders into being more welcoming and friendly to others. And I hate that. I think from my own experience, all it takes is 2 or 3 of you in any parish to go welcome the visitor, to sit down with him, to walk him through things, to help him, to go to lunch with him and embrace him. You don't need to change a whole parish. You don't need to change the whole ethos of an ethnic community. It only takes 2 or 3 of you to do it. So those of you who are in a parish who say, oh, well, our parish needs to be more welcoming. Well, if you do it, you're solving the problem. And that's really all it takes for a visitor. For the first 2 or 3 years, we only had a few people who were very warm and welcoming. The rest just had some suspicions. And you know what? I don't blame them. When a tattooed biker walks into an Egyptian world, I don't blame them for being suspicious. I don't blame them for looking at me askance and like, what's up with this guy? Not at all. Because frankly, I'm there to partake of a faith that their ancestors suffered persecution and martyrdom for centuries to preserve. They paid the price for this, a huge price. And I'm getting it for free just walking in. So if nobody's friendly to me, that's okay, because I'm still getting it for free. And I'm here for God, and there he is on the altar anyway. So I'm fine, really. Now, that being said, after a period of time, and my not demanding anybody be friendly or welcome me, but instead my just going there to worship and being there on time when liturgy starts, and my serving every chance I get, and then my teaching their grandchildren a fervent faith for the faith in God and a passion for the Coptic Church, I think word may have spread to them over time. And then the elder Copts, the ones with the stone face that never smile at anybody, you know the ones I mean, they started smiling at me. Now keep in mind, these folks don't even smile at other Egyptians, and they're smiling at me. And I found this very profound. And since that time, I have become very much welcomed, but it took a few years. But if it never had happened, it wouldn't change anything, because God is there. I'm not here for a social club. I'm not here because I lack friends. And if I never made a single friend, but devoted myself to God and the teachings that the church gives us, I could spend eternity with God. And isn't that enough? Isn't that kind of the point of all this? Really? So yeah, I mean, there are things we can do to be more welcoming, but really, you can't force it on other people. You go be more welcoming. That's not necessary. All you have to do is be the welcoming person. Be the one who is friendly, and take people to lunch and get to know them. This is what I do. Let me see, because I'm not seeing the comments. Let me see if I can make the comments come up. Okay. So now I think I have the comments up. Okay, Doll, can you do me a favor and play the video and see if I'm seeing myself stopping and starting on the video, and I don't know if it's just playing smoothly for you guys. So I'm going to have my wife check. Okay, so let me see if I can go back. To the questions. I need you to do it and give it back, and then it's paused. Yeah, the video is paused. It might be your phone's connection. Okay, I'm just going to go forward. Go back to comments and give me the next one. The last one was, okay, the last one was Daniel saying hi and the guys from the parish. So if you can get me to the next question. It's hard to scroll the questions on here. Wow, there's a lot of them. Bear with me. It'll be just a moment here.
It only goes back so far because it reloaded after it unfroze. That's a spell back.
Wow, really? We're having a hard time because we're losing questions and trying to go back and find them. So I would just invite everybody, re-ask your questions. I'm going to start with the beginning that I can see here, and I'm so sorry if yours didn't get up there, but I see Dale Bertram telling Constantina to listen. That's the last one I see here. So anybody else, go ahead and re-ask. I apologize for that. I'm not a techie guy. What are your thoughts of the Tome of Leo, the 4th to 6th councils, and the joint Christological statements of Copts and Roman Constantinople? Well, I'll tell you what, that question, my friend Kyrillos Gergis did his master's thesis on this subject, and he has told me that he is going to do a live video. So I think it's going to be on Chalcedon and that whole controversy, the Christological controversy. And so I'm going to go ahead and skip over that one and tell you to watch Kyrillos Gergis, one of our wonderful subdeacons at our church. He's not only better equipped to handle it, but also will be able to devote an entire episode to it. So let's see what else I have. How do you go about choosing one over another to attend within the Coptic Church? This is an excellent question. Now, I am very much in favor of the quote-unquote American parishes, although I don't like the name. I really do find the name kind of silly because they're all Egyptians anyway. What is an American parish? And it's not like I, as the American, I'm going to go walking down the sidewalk and go, that's a Coptic church. I don't think so. And then I'll walk another 2 blocks and go, oh, that says American Coptic. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go in there. I'm an American too. So I think the name is kind of silly. I don't have anything against it. I just kind of don't see the point. But I think that they're a wonderful idea, having all English parishes. I think it was a wonderful, wonderful development within the Coptic Church to let each parish kind of organically develop itself and a reflection of its own parishioners. So you have some that have much more Arabic, and some that have much more English, and some that have Coptic mixed in, and some that don't. And it really reflects the needs and the desires of the parishioners of that church. And so having this array of possibilities for us, I think, is wonderful. Now, I don't go to an American parish, an English parish. The parish where I pray is kind of split between English, Arabic, and Coptic in how we pray our liturgy and do our readings. The reason for this is, I will say this to begin with, it's hard. Yes, I do feel a bit alienated when there's Arabic or Coptic chants, and I can't join in the fast chants. I can do the slow ones because I can read Coptic phonetically, but the faster ones I can't read it that fast, and it is a little hard for me to be alienated. But on the other hand, there's the upside of attending my parish. My parish is extremely Orthodox, very Orthodox. You won't see any influences coming in from Protestantism or from any other faiths. You will find that it's very ethnic, very much Egyptian. And we have quite a few older Egyptians, speaking Arabic all over the church. And the reason I chose an ethnic parish is this. See, St. Paul talked about the body of Christ having many parts. And somehow American churches, and I think sometimes others, we want to, if we're a leg, we want to gather with all the legs. And if you're an arm, you want to gather with all the arms. And so we have one building full of arms and one full of legs and one full of ears. And I don't think that's a very good way to assemble a body. I think that it's wiser. My call was to say, where do they have the most of what I have the least? So again, I'm in it for my salvation. I'm not here for a social club. And so for my salvation, there are certain things that I need to develop spiritually, that I need to grow in spiritually. And those things are most prevalent in the ethnic parish because they're the most different than me. Now, there are other things that the ethnic parishes don't have as well, like apologetics and evangelism. And I applaud the parishes that are English that do those things because they're huge and important things to do. But for my salvation, I need the people who have what I don't have the most, and I need to be around them. My favorite is midweek liturgy with the elder Copts. This is where I need to be for my own salvation, absorbing that ethos from those people to save my soul when this is all over. And I really believe the way that ethos was developed was in the world of powerlessness. Because a powerless person, when you are a small persecuted religious minority, you don't have anywhere to turn but to God. And you know it. You don't have any recourse except God. And so you cling to him all the time. And you trust in him and you kiss both sides of the hand. And you say, God's will be done. Well, this is the opposite of who I am, because I am a large, tattooed biker American. I have recourse. If you're in front of me, I have recourse. I can meet you with strength. And I have legal recourse. I can call the police. I have civil recourse. I can take you to court. No matter what you do, I have power and recourse. And this power gives me a wrong sense of my strength before God and my strength as a man. But the elder Egyptians have never lived a life where they had that kind of power when they grew up in Egypt. And so the humility that they developed in that life is what I really need to absorb to save my soul, to save my wretched, powerful soul, and let it realize finally, you don't have power. You're dust. You're an intersection away from your meeting with God every day. And I really need to absorb this. And that's why I chose the parish I chose. Now, for the younger Copts to be in an American parish because they need other connections, that's great. The only thing I would challenge the younger Americans is this. I know what your elders did when they preserved this faith. And everybody knows in the other churches, they all know that it is a miracle to see the Coptic Church exist today. That all of North Africa, this is the place, this is the church. And that they survived through all this persecution is miraculous. And the ethos that they maintained, and that desert ethos and the monasteries, is a miracle. So I know what your ancestors did and what your parents did. And so what I say to the younger Copts is, what are you going to do? Let me see what you've got. I see what they've got. They're the reason this church is here. Now let's see what you've got. And so I would challenge the younger Copts, study theology, study apologetics, study the things that you're going to need to grow this church in America and to share this faith with all of these hungry Americans who need what you have. Be able to express your faith and to engage intelligently, learn how to defend it and what the defenses for it are, learn to express it and teach it to others. This is your challenge as the young Americans in those American parishes. And if you're not doing that and you're just trying to create a more comfortable social club, then shame on you. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. Your elders and your ancestors were not able to evangelize because they would have their heads cut off. But you have no excuse. None. There's a hurting world around you that needs Christ, and you guys are secluding yourselves into a little bubble, and that's not right. You have a treasure in front of you. You need to learn how to engage with the culture, learn what that treasure is, and share it with others so that they can grow in this faith with you. So I think that kind of covers why I chose the parish and my absolute affirmation for English parishes. I just don't want to see them turn into anti-Arabic social clubs. That's not what this is supposed to be for. This is not supposed to be an anti-Arabic church. You keep saying you want to reach out. Well, you don't do it by copying the religion that the same people just came from. You don't try and land a woman by copying her ex-husband. This isn't what you do. This isn't how it's done. If you want to appeal to me, the American, you need to answer my questions. You need to engage with me theologically and teach me what it is you understand and why that is true. Then you can engage with me, and then I will listen to you, and then I will be drawn to the truth. I don't come here for some watered down fake imitation of the American religions that I already have 5 of them on every street in America. I don't come here for a cheap Egyptian knockoff of that. I come here for the authentic, apostolic Church of God. So I hope that answered the question, and probably more. I'm going to go to the next one. Hello, cool beard, right? Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm growing it out because I'm running for bishop next election. Let's see. Hello from down under. St. John was the closest one to them when they were searching. Yes, funny story, as we're going for American Coptic churches, the reason I walked into the first Coptic church that I did, never knowing a Copt before, was on the wall in huge letters. This was St. John in Covina. It said, See of Alexandria. That was why I walked in. Because I had been studying the historic Christian faith, and I found that Alexandria was the intellectual center of the world at that time and had all the great scholars and was so instrumental in the development of this faith in the first few centuries. And St. Athanasius, I had encountered as a Protestant, was like, I was blown away. I was like, this guy, he's up there with the top couple of apostles as the most important Christians who've ever lived and impacted this world. And then when I see this building and I say, I want to study about this early church, and I see a building and it says Alexandria on the wall. That's why I walked in the first place. Danny Costandi, what's up, bro? I love Danny. He is awesome. Everything's smooth. And Callie, God bless you. Quality is good. Awesome. Did I miss the beard oil rankings? Joe Azar. Well, okay. So I have a priest who actually makes beard oil, and he made me some, and it was pretty amazing. It really was. As far as straight oils, I kind of like Honest Amish, and then you can get some of those. If you get like spicy scents, you can get like those, what are they called? The scented oils, and you can put a little bit in it and kind of help give it a nice scent. So I like the Honest Amish as far as oils go that you rub into your skin. But really, I've kind of become more beard balms, because rubbing the balm through isn't just for your skin, but it really softens the whole beard and makes it, as Joe Metz, my friend, felt it. He said, that's luxurious. And I think that's what it does. So again, the Honest Amish balms are very good, and they're good for control too. I can hear you all the way from Australia. And I'm not even reading. You should hear me when I read. You can hear me from China. Let's see. Do you think Knights Templar died in vain? Okay, I got no idea. Roman Catholic history is not kind of my thing. I don't know, but that's a great question. What's the biggest threat to the Coptic Church? I don't know that I can name one. I'll tell you what I would think, generally. The Jews who were persecuted, when they were under persecution, were pretty safe. They all turned to God and clung to him because they knew they needed a savior. And they were devout religiously. And as soon as good times came and they became relaxed, that's when God told them, teach this to your children. Don't let them forget it. Over and over, he said, remember, don't let them forget it. Teach it to them. Because in good times is when you forget this stuff. And they didn't. They neglected to teach it to their children. They just presumed they would inherit it the way they had. And I hope some of this is sounding familiar to some of you Copts. And so the next generation grew up in comfort and safety. And in turn, well, they started drifting to the cultures around them. They started importing their religions and marrying their women. Is any of this sounding familiar? I hope it is. And pretty soon their religion got very much mixed in and polluted with all the other people and religions around them, until finally God would bring judgment down upon them, and after many warnings, and then the whole cycle would begin again. So I think the biggest threat to the church is safety and its peace. I think that's a bigger threat than any Muslim persecution or any other persecution has ever been. I think prosperity and safety are our biggest danger. And I think we're seeing it now. And it's breeding very much a generation of people who are comfortable and have great lives and have their doctor, lawyer, engineer job, and they don't really need God. that much. And so what do you do when somebody doesn't really need God and all you offer is God? When what you offer is suffering and a cross and self-sacrifice to a people who love pleasure and are lovers of themselves? What do you offer to them? Well, you pander to them is about all you can do if you want to keep them. You're either going to lose them or you're going to pander to them. You're going to feed the ego, the self. You're going to give them emotional thrills with songs that are really fun and exciting and give them goosebumps, and pander and feed them something to keep them coming in the door. And then you're going to proclaim to everybody, oh my gosh, we've kept them in orthodoxy. But the truth is you didn't keep them in orthodoxy. This religion you gave them is not orthodoxy. You've kept them in protodoxy, some kind of a syncretized Protestant Orthodox hybrid, lowbrid. So no, you didn't save them. You didn't keep them. Because when you tell me somebody is kept in the faith, I want to see their lives and I want to see how they answer questions and how they approach things. This will tell me very much when they get questions that come into their lives. How do they address them? And so really, I think it's the American culture around us here in America that the comfort of it, the appeal of it, the consumerism of it, and the narcissism, that everything is there to feed me. Everything is there to cater to me. And in case you guys don't know, the cheesy evangelical churches that you're copying, those were not organic developments. Those were market research strategies that figured out customer service and how to keep customers coming back. And let's offer lower prices. Let's give an altar call instead of a baptism. Let's give a prayer in your seat instead of an altar call. Let's give better customer service. Let's give them donuts and coffee at the door. Let's give them emotional goosebumps with our songs. This is all consumerism. This is Americanism. And this is catering to the customer. Well, the voice of the Coptic Church is the opposite voice. It is not a voice that caters to you and serves you in a way to make you feel better and more important where you are. It's a voice of a cross. In dead center at the top of every church, there's a cross. Inside, there's a cross. And is Christ hanging on the cross saying, follow me. This is the Orthodox Church. And as soon as we remove the offensiveness of the cross, then we have danger. Then we are really treading on thin ice, because what we're doing is we're selling a product to keep customers in the door, and we've lost our religion. And so this is what I'm trying to get through to people. What you're trying to copy, that's not our ethos. That's not the Desert Fathers. When we see difficulty and struggle as Copts, we see that as an occasion to kiss the back of the hand and to thank God for training us in righteousness through these difficulties and for driving us to our knees in prayer and to Matanyas. This is what the struggles are in our ethos. But the ones who have encountered and let the American ethos come in, struggles and difficulties mean something needs to change and be fixed. We need to get rid of the struggles and difficulties. They're the problem. And so they start trying to redevelop the church to do this, to address this problem, to get rid of all the struggles and difficulties, and to feed the narcissistic egos of the American consumer. And I'm telling you, in America, in my view, that's our biggest threat. Been a half hour. Okay, so next. Wow, this, okay. Explain monophysitism. Thank you, Dale. I'm going to leave that to Kyrillos' video. When Kyrillos does his video on the councils and Chalcedon, it will deal with the entire Phasis controversy. And I would invite you and encourage you to watch that. Re-asking threat. Okay, got that. Beard oil rankings. The story of Noah end on a positive note or negative? I'm not sure the question. I'm not sure I grasp it. So I'm going to skip. I got so many more. Um, Importation of Protestant music into the Coptic Church being just the church adapting to American culture. Okay, so this is from Blake, and he's asking about the importation of Protestant music and worship into the Coptic Church being an adaptation to culture, American culture. Well, hold on a second. You turn on your radio and you show me that music on some station, because I don't see it. That's not American culture. What that is a religion. It is a religious expression of a particular group of, kind of more modern evangelical Western Christians, not even the confessional Protestants, but it's a kind of a group, mega church, popular churches. So this isn't the importation of something from the culture. This is the importation of a religion, not a culture. And I see this comparing it to some African missions where they're allowed to use drums and other instruments. Now, I haven't really researched into this thing going on. I understand it's in Kenya, and I don't have anything solid to say about that. But what I will say is this, that throughout the world, wherever the church went, although you find different cultural types of chants, and there's your diversity, what you find unanimously across the board is a conveyance of the sacred and the solemn and the deeply religious, the sober. This is what's conveyed by the tune of the chant. And it has always been done a cappella. And of course, there can be like something to keep time, but never has it been intended to invoke emotional responses. The music that is being copied and imported from the Protestant churches, frankly, if you put it in a category, is somewhere between 70s folk music and boyfriend music for a 15-year-old girl. This is pretty much what we're seeing. And this is, oh my gosh, Jesus, I love you so much. I'll give my heart to you. And this is a teenage girl singing to her boyfriend. This is not cultural expression. This is from a particular group. And clearly, this does not fit our ethos. Now, if the church went somewhere else and they're engaging in more emotive religious practice in just one place, then I've got to stop and say, I think that needs to be reevaluated. Because historically, if all the churches all over the world don't do this, and they purposely avoid emotional engagement for the sake of emotion, not that you don't have emotions, but that they really avoided trying to invoke emotions, and they've conveyed the sacred and the solemn, and instead there's something conveying the happy, clappy, fun time, I think we do have a problem there. And that's something that really needs to get looked at. But I don't know that that's the case in these African churches, because I don't know enough about the culture to know. But except to say, if this is how traditionally that culture conveys the deep, sacred, and solemn, then okay, that's what it's supposed to be. And if it doesn't, and it's more the party fun time celebration, that's not how the church has developed in all these different countries over the centuries. As a Western person with a Western ear, I can tell you when I hear, like Gregorian chant, or if I hear Russian chant, this does resonate in my ears. This is sacred and solemn. I don't have to know the lyrics. I know this is sacred and solemn chant. And these are voices being brought together in unison. And no one person is standing out with his instrument, but they're all on the same page chanting. This is, okay, this is what I understand to be proper Coptic chant. Let me see. Yeah, look it up there because you're going to do it. Does Abuna Kyrillos' beard balm live up to the hype? I don't want to advertise it because I don't want him to get bombarded, but that's the most amazing product I've ever used. It is just, oh my gosh, it is heavenly. The scent, the texture, the hold, the control, it is just amazing. He needs to be canonized just for his beard balm, in my opinion. Have you studied near-death experiences? No, my wife read, and I understand there's a book that's really good for this from Father Seraphim Rose called The Soul After Death. And I understand there's a Coptic kind of version of that same book that's been out for a little while. So no, I never did study it. I'm a little more focused on how to get there without perishing. So that's okay. So I have a question here from a Jean Paul Marcos. There's a dash in his name. I don't know, maybe his parents couldn't decide, and so they just went with both the ones they had. Can you speak on why it is important to protect our faith and why it's dangerous to import any non-Orthodox materials? Can you also elaborate on what the differences between attacking someone and attacking their ideas? Thanks. Okay, Jean Paul. Let me see. Sorry. What's really kind of led me onto this sort of rampage against importation is that, let's say you hear some people talking in a group in Arabic, and you as an Egyptian hear somebody speaking Egyptian Arabic, and you go, hey, that's Egyptian Arabic. And I, as an American, go, oh, no, that's just Arabic. There's nothing wrong with it. And they're like, no, that's Egyptian Arabic. And I'm like, no. Well, I would hope you would kind of smack me and go, what do you know? You're the American. Well, in the same way, I'm saying this importation of Protestant ideas, sermons, entire sermons, songs, their ethos, it permeates your thinking and you don't even realize it. Most of the time when we're at parishes and get questions, we get questions that are based on paradigms that are not Orthodox paradigms. They come from paradigms which are Protestant, that it's already in our churches, it's in your thinking, and it's not Orthodox thinking. And you're not even aware it's there. And that's what I'm kind of really trying to do, is to point out to cops when I'm seeing it, look, here it is. This is where it came from. This is where it started. And this is what you're doing and developing. And I'm kind of showing them, hey, this isn't original. This isn't Orthodox people that are going, oh my gosh, we've just developed some great new thing. It's a copy of another religion. And you're not just copying the thing you think you're copying. You're bringing in an entire ethos, an entire system, an entire way of viewing and thinking about things along with it. And it is impossible to import a song or a book or a teaching, much less an entire sermon series, from a Protestant source and not be telling all of your people, these people are the same as us, go to them for teaching, it's good stuff. Well, if I want to go to them for teaching because it's good stuff, why would I be listening to you to get the secondhand version? Why would I be getting the imitation of the good stuff when I can just go straight there, join their church, and get the good stuff? Why wouldn't I do that? But I'm telling you, as somebody who came from there, it's not the good stuff. It's a different ethos. It doesn't match ours. And I'm not bashing at all. This takes me to the second one, between bashing a person and ideas. I'm talking about the religious beliefs and structure and the religious ethos of Protestantism. I'm not talking about Protestant people. I have more respect for many of the Protestant people that I know than I do for a whole lot of Coptic people. Their courage to stand up for what's right is huge. Their devotion and dedication to their faith, their diligent zeal in studying and learning their faith, their willingness to be bold and evangelize people around them. I have nothing but respect for everything about the people. I'm talking about the beliefs. And so here, this takes us to the second part of the question that's so important. You can criticize beliefs without criticizing individuals. When you talk about where is over the line in criticizing people is when you talk about character of somebody, when you talk about them being evil or ascribe evil motives to them. Because frankly, I have Protestant friends that, want me to become Protestant again, that want to take Copts and convert them to Protestantism. And I have respect for them as people because they believe we are going to hell. They believe we are the apostate church. And if you really believe that, and you didn't try with everything in you to get me to leave this and come to you, then I wouldn't respect you, because it means you don't care about me. And frankly, that's reflective of Copts, not caring that the people around them that are perishing are perishing. They don't seem to care. They don't engage them. Oh, but if I talk to him about it, I might get him mad at me. Really? Because your parents clung to this faith even if it meant losing their heads. But your line, your breaking point is I might get someone mad at me? Really? This is it? This is all that you can take? So really, I think it's important to recognize that when you ascribe character to somebody, oh, they're evil. Well, no, they're not. I think generally speaking, we can presume that most people talking in the religious arena, trying to convince you of something, do care about you and are convinced that what they're saying is true. They're sincere. There's no right to call them names, to call them, oh, they're trolls, or they're this or that, or, oh, they're, mean people. They're out to bash me, or whatever somebody might think about that. That's just plain wrong. These people, even if they are totally wrong in what they're saying, their motivation should be pretty obvious. They care about people and they want them to come to the truth. So I don't think it's appropriate to do that, to ascribe motive. Oh, they're trying to whatever. They're trying to get notoriety, or they're trying to do this. No, there's no need to ascribe motive to people. All you have to do is start by presuming they have the best interests at heart, just like you do. Only you disagree on the facts of the matter. And so you discuss the facts of the matter. And a great way that I have found to try and express to people how to do this is pretend that the proposition that we're talking about is this entity, and we're going to place it on a table in between us. And we're going to discuss it, detached from you and detached from me. And it's going to stand as its own entity that we're going to talk about. And it doesn't belong to either one of us. We're just going to talk about it. And whatever happens with it, it's not going to affect, this doesn't belong to me, and it's not attached to me. And then we can just sit and discuss this thing in itself and see how that goes and see what we can talk about it. So as soon as people start attacking each other, this is where we start running into all the problems, instead of talking about the ideas and the propositions. And so I think this would be a good place to start having discussion. And it really, the first place is to start by assuming that everybody has honest, good motives at heart in wanting to see others come to and embrace the truth. Okay. Wow, this thing just blew through and started bringing up a whole bunch more. If somebody can teach me later on how to hold the last comment on the screen and then scroll, that'd be great. I'm so sorry that I'm sure I've lost questions back there. I'm just going to go to the next ones I see. I'll do this. The next time I do a live video, I'm going to put a post up for your questions, and I will save it on just a stationary post. And then those will be the questions I'll address on the video. Then we don't have this happen. I apologize for anybody I'm missing. Why not join the Byzantine Church? Why'd you go Coptic? Good question. I had really come to the conclusion that all were equally orthodox in my view and based on my studies. And again, I found something in the Coptic ethos, this small Middle Eastern persecuted religious minority, to be exactly like that of the New Testament. And because they were under this same persecution pretty much on and off since the time of Chalcedon, they really maintained that early Christian ethos in a way that I found to be unique, and in a way that I found that I needed the most, because it was the most unlike me. I'd found that Russians and Greeks really had much better, in many ways, scholarship. But then I decided I can buy their books, can't I? And obtain their scholarship. To this day, George Florovsky, Russian theologian, is probably the favorite author I've ever read, the favorite theologian that I've ever encountered. I just find him so profound. But I can get his stuff on books. But this deep ethos of the Coptic elders of kissing both sides of the hand, this I really have only really encountered in this way in the Coptic church. And so that's why I chose the Coptic over the other ones. And I'm not saying anyone is better or worse. I'm saying they had the most of what I had the least. And since I am so much more oriented toward theological scholarship, the last thing I needed was a church of theological scholarship. So if I did, I would have probably gone Russian or Greek. What I needed was the opposite of me, not the same as me. Tilo Savage. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Which church fathers influenced your decision toward Coptic views as opposed to Eastern Orthodox? Honestly, St. Athanasius, Contra Mundum. When I encountered him, it wasn't so much his views, so much as just what he did. I mean, if I had to pick the top 6 most influential Christians who ever lived, including apostles on that list, Athanasius would be on that list. The man was amazing. I tell people he's the reason we're not all Jehovah's Witnesses today. Why do you think the youth are leaving the Coptic Church? I think I touched on that. I think there's a combination of us as parents not training them properly, because we just presume that they will pick up the faith the way that the parents did. But they're forgetting you picked it up because you needed God in a way that they don't. You needed God because of the persecution around you. And you just presumed that they would need him too. But in America, they really don't. They don't have persecution. They have luxury. They have, so much going for them. And honestly, with the intelligence of the Copts and their scholastic achievements, I mean, the vocational trinity of doctor, lawyer, engineer, in a place of safety and security. Do you really need God all that much? And there's a failure, I think, very much for parents to convey why you need God. And so the kids just kind of don't. I heard from a priest once that he gets screamed at by parents. He's screamed at because their kids are falling away from God. Well, are you praying the Agpeya with them from childhood? Are you teaching them to show up at liturgy 5 minutes before it starts? Are you taking them to midweek liturgy whenever you can? Are you reading scripture with them? Are you teaching them? Are you studying the faith and teaching them the faith? Or are you just handing them over to the church once a week for a liturgy and once a month for a confession, or every 3 months, and thinking they'll save my kid for me? I'm sorry, but I think that's foolish. I think it's foolish to hand your kid off to somebody for their eternal soul. I take that responsibility myself. I'm going to teach my children the faith. And I think this is the beginning place of keeping our kids in the church. If you want to know why they leave, I think it's more important to ask, why do they stay? And if you want to know why they stay, go to the Tespeha prayers. Go to the Friday liturgy in the summer and go look at the young people who are there, and you talk to them and you ask them, why are you here? Tell me about your upbringing. Tell me about your parents. Tell me about your mentoring. What is it you were taught? What is it you heard that made you come here on Friday to pray? That made you stay after Vespers for the midnight praises? What is it that happened to you? That's who you should be asking, not the ones who leave, the ones who stayed. Politics nope, skipping that one. And we're like 5 minutes left. I'm trying to keep this to about an hour because we're both off today and I want to hang out with my wife. As much as I like you, I like her better. Don't we have to adapt culturally for the sake of salvation? Agree that God gives us grace. Okay, so yes, to adapt to a culture. This is where the problem is. You have the hardcores that say, you change nothing. And then you have the extreme liberals who say, well, because I can see this little adaptation happened 500 years ago, therefore it's just a green light. We can import from another religion or do anything that gives us goosebumps and call it orthodox. Well, no, those aren't our only options. So when you talk about cultural adaptation, when you talk about anything, when you ask any question, the place to start is the history of the church. This is where you begin. Because the church encountered different cultures. What was it that they kept the same? And what was it they changed and adapted to the new culture? So, for instance, sacred solemn chant remained the same. The stylistic variations of that solemn sacred chant was adaptable. The Holy Scriptures and Fathers remained the same. The translation into the language of the people, that was what the adaptation was. So we need to look at what was adapted and what wasn't. Did they import from competing religions who claimed to be authentic Christianity and considered them apostates? Did they import materials and songs from them? Oh, come on, you can't be serious. Look at the Gnostic era. They claimed to be the real Christians who had the real truth, and the rest of the people didn't. And were we importing their songs and written materials and preaching their sermons, literally preaching their sermons? Were we doing that? Of course not. That has never been the case. This is utterly insane to think this is cultural adaptation. This is not cultural adaptation. This isn't how that works. So, yes, I believe in cultural adaptation, but understand what it is and what it isn't. And this doesn't mean that this gives you a green light to do anything that gives you goosebumps on Sunday or at a meeting midweek. And frankly, the substance, the meaning, and the teachings of the church, they don't require adaptation. As a matter of fact, orthodoxy is quite the opposite. It gives us eternal truths on how we need to change and adapt to become saints and to follow Christ. It is very much the opposite. Orthodoxy never teaches us that we need to adapt the church. It says you need to adapt yourself because you're the problem. You're fallen and you're sinful and you're not going to like this. You're the one who needs to change. And once you do change and you start pursuing God, you will see how relevant all this stuff really was all along. So when you talk about adapting to match the culture, I am that culture. I'm the one you're talking about. I didn't grow up in an Egyptian home. I'm not an in-between. I'm fully American. This is how I grew up. And let me tell you, the last thing I want to see when I walk in the door is consumerist religion. Now, I will grant you, yes, to have an all-English liturgy would make this much more accessible to me as an American. So yes, that is something that would be great to see adapted in parishes, and we're doing that. One day, maybe 50 years from now, to have maybe a tweaking on the chant style that matches the Western ear, great. Once we're all doing it together on the same page, in the same way, at the same time, yeah, maybe something like that would be great. To move into, dealing with things a little more in the area of apologetics and in-depth theology in our teachings, because American culture tends to be more intellectually oriented. As long as you're teaching all the orthodox things in that way, yeah, that's a great cultural adaptation. So I'm with you. But if what you're talking about is adapting the faith to people who are marginal, nominal, and don't want to give themselves completely to picking up a cross, but want to be